Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Thieves. We are so excited to be here today to build a world, hopefully one world, out of 3 random words in the English language that we pick, that Michael picks today.
Yep.
I ruined it. My name is Greg.
My name is Michael.
And we are joined today by a guest author by the name of Kerry E.B. Black, who is the author of the Seasons of Growing series, who is currently on book number 2 called Spring of Spirits. This series is basically a young adult magical realism, paranormal / horror series. So,
oh, that's so cool.
We're so excited to have her on today. So, Kerry, how are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, we talked about this before the podcast, but we've never had somebody who's into horror like you are, and I can't tell you how excited I am.
Well, hold on. Are you into horror or do you just write about horror? Probably both, right?
Definitely both.
Okay. So if I were to ask you, if I were to ask you what's your favorite horror movie, could you just rattle one off?
Sure, Babadook.
Ooh, good one.
Nice.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yes, nice. I love that movie. I know Michael is terrified. Michael, have you seen that movie?
No. Would I be terrified of it?
You're a baby. Yeah, you don't like scary movies.
I don't like scary. Well, there's a difference. You might be able to clarify for us here. There's, in my opinion, there's 2 types of horror movies. There's the there's a guy coming to kill you horror movie, and then there's the psychological horror movie, creepy ones.
Definitely.
there's a big separation, right? So absolutely. I feel like the first one I'm okay with, the guy coming to kill you, I get it. That's
okay with that.
The screams of the world, that kind of movie. That's not so scary for me. But the other ones are very scary. The psychological ones.
You wouldn't like Babadook then. It's excellent. Yeah. It's very psychologically scary.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good choice. So since we're talking about it, what got you into horror, and why did you choose to write about horror?
Okay, it's funny. I am actually a bit of a chicken. I have a lot of things that I'm afraid of, and as a result, I tend to write about them. It's kind of, a cathartic sort of thing.
Okay. Like a face your fears kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. Tell us a little bit about your books. Have you written more than those, or is that what you're getting into now?
I sure have. Mostly what I published so far has been short stories.
Okay.
And I published enough of those that I was so excited. I got to compile them into a couple of books. One is for younger readers. It's called Carousel of Nightmares. The next book that I put enough into is called The Herd of Nightmares, and it has this amazing artwork by my brother. And the last one was called Fairy Herds and Mythscapes, and it's kind of the darker, grim fairy tale sort of thing. Okay,
so when you say younger readers, what does that mean? 21 or
no. Okay. No, not at all. I have a 12-year-old.
Okay.
And I don't have any problem reading any of those to him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I have a 12-year-old as well. So he's in that vein of wanting to see scary things all the time. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know yet, because he's still in the nightmare phase. So am I, though. So it's I don't know when to
never grew out of it.
to what level is appropriate. I don't know.
It's funny. I grew up with Chiller Theater and Vincent Price and all of those wonderful, scary late night shows because my mom and dad were in the other room, hanging out with the adults. So my brother and I would watch, the House of Wax. I still have a terror of wax museums.
Oh, yeah.
And Agreed. All sorts of things. In fact, one of my earliest memories was when we went to Niagara Falls and we went to which one was it? It was the horror museum of a wax museum, and they had Boris Karloff type things. And I was completely convinced as a 3-year-old that, something terrible was going to happen.
Right.
And like I said, as a result, it's still there.
Yep.
It's ingrained in you.
It is.
So I've got a question about actually writing horror then, because actually some of my favorite stories come from there, like the Cask of Amontillado. That's a classic.
Absolutely.
Right? And in that book, he does such a good job of, because obviously you can't do jump scares in books, right? It's not a movie. It's a different medium. So how do you, and in the Cask of Amontillado is what I think of, because he does such a good job of building up, I think, the tension, the suspense, that
Absolutely.
you don't need a jump scare to be absolutely terrified. And so what do you think, this might be kind of a loaded question, but what do you think is the secret ingredient, I guess, in writing something like that, when you can't do a jump scare, you can't do scary violins and orchestrated music to accompany it. All you have is your words. So what do you think is the ingredient to make something?
Well, something
scary?
like Poe, he is just a master of pacing. He really brings you along for the ride. For instance, Telltale Heart, you start out with a gentleman who seems perfectly sane, and he takes you each step of the way down to insanity, and the same with the, I also like the twisting ends. You think where
Yeah.
things are going, and then something completely surprising happens. And
Right.
I think Poe is also a master of that.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and what you said about pacing, I think that rings true, because the way that you can either speed things up or you can slow it down, and
Yeah.
both of those can have a really great impact on what you're trying to create. So that's a good point. That's good input.
Now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever read like a horror book. I think I've only watched. I think I've only watched it. And now that we're talking about it, I've been trying to think of like, what have I read that's scary? And
did you not read Frankenstein after you and I had talked about it?
Well, I didn't think that was an assignment. I had to
yeah.
I don't know, but no, like I don't like growing up. I wasn't into that, so I read school assigned books and fantasy books, and then now I read a lot of sci-fi fantasy. I don't read horror. Like the closest I get to horror is like the 40K universe, which is dark, but it's not like scary per se. So, yeah.
There's some definite crossovers with sci-fi and fantasy, where some of the stories can get grim dark almost.
Yeah. So that's exactly what 40K is grimdark, right?
It is
almost define the genre.
Yeah. And I love that. So maybe I'm like one step away without knowing it. I think
that's a pretty good crossover.
Some of the horror that's out there can be so really, really astounding, so well done, and then you read it, you're like, wow, okay, this is fabulous. I'm so glad that I'm reading this, and then you realize, well, this is not any more frightening than, for instance, a grimdark piece.
Okay.
So
maybe I'm there.
I don't know. There are extreme examples though too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
right.
Yeah, maybe I'll read your book, and then we'll go from there. See where we go. If I'm too scared, if I can't sleep at night because of you, then that'll be a problem.
And you'll be hearing from us.
You'll be hearing about it.
Oh.
So your recent set, they're a novel? It's a novel, or is it just, what would you call your book that you just came out with and the one you're writing?
They're novels. The two. Yeah. Great. They're young adult. I actually classify them more as young adult thrillers, because the horror aspects, they just kind of eked out. I didn't even realize I'd put them in there, as stupid as that might sound. But my niece was doing some better reading for me, and she was like, wow, Aunt Kira, I wasn't expecting that. And I was like, oh, I guess maybe. Yeah. So
right.
The basic idea for them is the very first book. There's a young girl. She's very nervous, and she is going to college, and she's walking around on campus, and she makes some friends, and she's excited about that. And she's a really complicated home life. But one of her friends named Jamie insists that she come to a campus. It's called an awakening ceremony. Mm-hmm. And it's up on a hill, and there's a big bonfire. And the whole idea is it's supposed to awaken potential. And so she and this new group of friends are there, and they woke up something a little bit more than their potential. So they have to sort of take care of that after they realize that, wait a minute, there are murders taking place on campus. So I guess when I talk about it a little bit out loud, I do sort of see where she might have been.
It sounds like a horror book, kind of.
Yeah, especially since what Casey awakens is she is able to act sort of like a psychopomp. She's able to sense when somebody is about to die, and she helps ease the transition.
Cool.
That was one of the things that she's able to do.
Interesting.
Cool. That's fun. That's fun stuff.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say about your books before we dive into this world we want to build?
Well, just I hope that people would enjoy them.
Yeah. We will also leave a link to your information and where they can find the books in the show notes afterwards. So they'll be able to see that and get it. Cool.
Thank you.
So here we go. Before we go, hold on, one thing. I got this thing we're gonna try. I'm gonna read some words. Yeah, we're gonna try this. This is not. You won't be graded though. Maybe.
Oh no,
you might be.
I'm nervous. I don't know what he's doing either. So
this is just off the cuff.
Okay.
I'm gonna read some words, and I want you guys after these aren't the words we're gonna talk about, but after each one of these words, I want you to tell me how you feel about the word.
Okay.
Word number 1, labyrinth.
that makes me feel nostalgic.
David Bowie.
Okay.
Yep,
I think you both did the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. The second word might be different. This one's ineffable.
It sounds, I don't know, kind of flighty.
Flighty?
To me, it conjures up an image of Simba from The Lion King.
Oh.
Very good. That's great. That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Number 3, incendiary.
Molotov cocktails.
Ooh, nice.
That's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, Molotov cocktails. We're lighting the
Molotov
world on
cocktails.
fire. Okay.
Yeah. Well, not the world, just incendiary.
And number 4, this will be the last one. Ephemeral.
Now that makes me think of fairy tales.
Okay.
Oh, ephemeral. That makes me think of like, okay, I guess it is fairy tales, but I was going to say it makes me think of like the Scottish Highlands. There's misty, it's the misty morning dew everywhere. And there's a circle of mushrooms, which obviously means there's fairies.
That's a fairy tale in the making.
So
Absolutely.
that's immediately where I go with that word.
Yeah. Cool. That was it. That was the fun bit. These were
So just a warm up.
The top, yeah, it was a quick warm up to get our, ideas flowing. Those are the top 4 words according to bestlifeonline.com in the English language. So
The top 4 words.
yeah, and those are rated by like the beauty of the word, not necessarily the meaning, but just, Anyway, those are the top 4. There's a list of 60. I didn't use these words in the words I have. My words are a little more basic.
Ineffable.
Ineffable.
That's one of the top words.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Surprisingly. A lot of these I don't ever agree with. I just Google them real quick and it's like, here's a bunch of words that are cool.
True. Yeah.
They're
Ineffable.
cool words.
That's gonna
Words
stick
that
with me.
I probably wouldn't use in normal conversation. But words that if I found them or if someone said it to me, I'd be like, oh, cool. That's I think that's where they're going.
Hey, that guy is cool.
Hey, this person's cool. I don't know. Okay. Here we go. So we're going into the world building. So I would love, we don't have to, but because our guest author is a thriller / horror writer, I would love this to be more of a horror themed. I don't want to shoehorn us into there, but feel free. Okay. So,
all right.
With that, word number 1 is silver.
You're shoehorning us. right
No,
into
what?
werewolves.
No way. No, okay, wait.
Absolutely.
Right into werewolves. Is that
Wait a
not what you
minute.
thought of, Carrie?
Absolutely. Immediately.
See, you're shoehorning us.
Well, I mean,
It's okay. Lycanthropy is cool.
it hurt.
Yeah,
it
it is
helps.
cool.
Yeah, it helps you.
there is nothing wrong with werewolves.
So the word is silver. What do you guys got?
Carrie, what's the first thing you think of in building a
Well-
world for silver?
Werewolves.
Yep, definitely werewolves. And protection from, I think silver is also used for protection from different fairy creatures too, aren't they?
Oh, I don't know. That sounds cool. That can be in our world if that's not.
I mean, that you're making me think that fairies are bad now, which I've actually
Ooh.
I've seen that in a few different things. I can't name it, but I've seen it before where people kind of turn the tables on fairies, and instead of being these flighty little creatures that are, whimsical and they dance and sing, they harm.
In some lore, they are like trickster creatures.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, some actually in the British Isles, some people believe that they were fallen angels who didn't quite make it to hell, but they were bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
interesting.
were not exactly the cheerful lot that we might think of. They are not all Tinkerbell.
Yeah. So instead of, I really like, Michael and I both really like the idea of like heaven and hell in world building and lore. And I love the idea of like a fallen angel turned just this spiteful fairy. I think that's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind starting there with the world.
I don't see a
Fairies.
problem with that. That sounds good.
That does sound good. Fairies are fallen angels, and silver is somehow the protection against them.
Silver and steel and iron, I think.
Cool.
Well, that's handy because you can make swords out of those things,
Absolutely.
Yes.
or bullets, depending on what kind of world we're building.
Yeah. What are we thinking here? Is this fantasy? Is this sci-fi? Yeah, I like, or what? Or I don't know what else.
Or is it real world? What do you think, Carrie?
Well, I think for today, what we're building, let's make it a combination of fantasy and real world.
Yes.
Okay.
And are we thinking? What are we thinking? Like time period? Is it swords and magic, or are we bullets and? You said fantasy and real world mixed together.
Or the industrial age. That would be an interesting mix. Putting fairies and kind of that fantasy element into like a steamboat kind of
Yeah. Have you
Wild
actually?
West.
Now that you say that, I don't know. Have either of you seen? There's a show. I think it's on like HBO Max. It's called Carnival Row.
I have.
Yeah. Doesn't that have fairies? And it's like kind of
Absolutely does.
new
Yep.
tech. They have guns.
Oh, really?
The fairies
Yeah,
are
almost-
different though, right? They're like human size. They're not little.
Exactly.
They're not tiny fairies.
They're in lore, in the old lore, they were actually human sized or bigger, actually.
Okay.
And the thing is, do we want to set it then? The only reason I'm saying maybe not, because it's already been done a couple of times. Like you said, Carnival Row.
Yeah.
I think there was a gaming system. It was called Castle Falkenstein, and they had fairies and all kinds of crazy things in a Victorian cyberpunky kind of world.
Okay.
It was kind of neat. So why don't we just put ours a little bit later? In fact, let's do something really weird. Let's make it during the Dust Bowl in America.
Oh, nice. I love that period of time. I love that period of time.
Okay. All right. I can dig that.
So you have a lot of desperation.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people in need of help. A lot of just probably, I don't know about like, probably a lot of criminal stuff happening. Probably.
I would think.
Yeah, right. It's like people in times of need do crazy things.
Hold on. Give me a quick history lesson. What years are we talking? Like, if we're talking real world,
The
is this
early 1900s.
Early 1900s?
Yeah.
Okay. Then yes, there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of theft.
Well, the Dust Bowl itself, what happened was people had settled in the Midwest area, and they tried farming, and they didn't realize that they actually had changed the entire system. And what that ended up doing was it caused a terrible drought, and people who had invested all their money in properties to farm ended up losing their properties. So you're talking kind of the 1930s after the fall of the stock market.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it can be, that could be pretty interesting. But we could do it earlier too. The 1900s would be interesting. 1920s with all the flappers and
The Great Gatsby.
The Great Gatsby, yeah.
With
All
fairies,
the
yeah.
prohibition.
With fairies,
Oh
yeah.
my, that would fit right in.
Prohibition with fairies. Interesting. That's cool.
That would fit right in.
Yeah, I'm good with any of those times.
I want to dig into the Dust Bowl a little bit. Let's explore a little bit. And as Michael and I have done before, if it's bad, we'll just throw it out. Because as it happens, we have a lot of bad ideas. So that's fine. So let's try it though. Let's try a little. Let's put fairies into that time period. So we're talking. So then we're going to talk like an alternate kind of history of America, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think what would our let's decide first, are these fairies human size or are they Tinkerbell size? This is a key
I think it'd be
detail.
more interesting if they were human size.
Okay.
I like that.
And so you're more up to speed than on kind of the real world lore of it. Did fairies in kind of that history, did they have like wings, or did they have noticeable attributes that, like, that's a fairy, or did they have fangs, or what was the deal with them?
I think one of the big things that is fairly consistent about fairies is they always were able to cast glamours. So they could appear almost in any form that they wanted to.
Nice.
Which is why people would think, oh, sometimes they were very small or sometimes they were quite large. And I think there are different classes too. Like there's a whole royal court, and then there would be people who would be under that. And then, of course, they're the ones that didn't look human at all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Are all the ones we're talking about or including in our world, are they all bad?
They don't have to be.
Yeah, like
I'm imagining them being like more like mischievous than bad. Like
Okay.
Like sometimes they could do bad things, or certain ones will do very bad things, but as a whole, as a general populace, they are just known to be mischievous, where it's like, we don't trust you. You're not going to like kill me, but I don't trust you. I think that would be kind of the general vibe towards fairies.
Sounds good.
So that was to say then that some would be good because they would want to choose to be good, and some would probably be pretty wicked.
Well, maybe some would be like normal people trying their best to, earn their way back to, especially since they would know if there was a heaven or a hell.
Right.
So maybe they would be trying to earn their way back to where they wanted to be. And then some of them might be like, no, I'm perfectly happy here where I am. I'm going to cause whatever,
Okay.
whatever I want.
So then we're going to say then that their main objective is to kind of find their place again in heaven for the most part.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's cool. So what about silver though? We got fairies and Dust Bowl.
What about silver?
Well, let's see. The stock market has crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like this.
So silver, of course, would be a commodity. When did the silver mining stop? Like, I know they still have silver mines out toward where you folks live.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder when that was the most prevalent.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I thought it was like in the 1800s that I know in the 1800s, a lot of mining towns shut down. In the late 1800s, they shut down because there was just no more need, like copper mines and stuff like that. But I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't know. I one of my best friends actually worked in a mine in Nevada up until like 5 years ago. So I don't know when that happened.
I mean,
What's on
yeah.
your mind?
I think it was, I don't know actually. I know he was underground for like 12 days at a time and then up for 10 or whatever. But I don't know.
Wow.
Underground for 12 days? Are you kidding me?
No. No, this is
Jeez.
not a kid. This is not jokes around.
That is not a joke.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he would go down and then come up and, you know, just it's one of those on-off shifts where you have days at a time. But yeah, I don't know when mining.
How about this? This is kind of evil, but it's the
Okay.
real world. It's an evil place.
The real
So-
world is evil.
How about this? There's silver mines in whatever location we're talking about, and in kind of the Midwest America. And because people don't like mining, right? Well, mining sucks. Let's be honest. Like it's a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy job, especially back in the 1900s, early 1900s. And so the humans at the time maybe not enslave, but treat very poorly the fairies and make the fairies mine for silver. But we go back to what you said at the beginning, is that fairies are still basically allergic to that. So like,
Well, that would be a way to control them too.
yeah.
Maybe they
so
would be
it's-
able to cast glamours and things.
Ah.
Yeah. And so it's absolutely debilitating them and it's oppressing them. And it's like they're being treated so badly. But also because they are known to be mischievous, that's why the humans are like, we need to put you under control because all you're doing is like robbing banks and stuff like that. You know, like we could put
All
some
you do is
spin on
rob
it.
banks.
We could put some spin on it and say that all those Wild West characters that we know and love back in the Wild West days, those were all fairies. You know, like
Yeah. Maybe a lot of the notable people were
Billy
fairies.
the Kid, stuff like that. You know, they were all fairies.
Okay.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's
that would be cool.
That's our twist on this timeline.
Well, and we could have maybe there be some fairy somewhere who doesn't like this and is trying to basically come up with a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have a good rebellion.
You
I
know,
love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's dive in. Before we get too high up on ourselves here, let's see what word number 2 has to say.
okay. Word number 2 is quite different than word number 1.
That's what I thought.
And again, now that I'm looking at this, maybe I did try to get us into horror
Mhm,
a little
I knew
heavier. This word.
You thought you could get werewolves out of us?
I didn't get werewolves, but this one, the second word is nemesis.
Oh, okay. So we're right back where we were just talking about
Yeah, we're starting that.
our nemesis.
Yeah, the nemesis.
Now, who are we setting up as the good guys, though? Are we setting up the miners, the humans, or
I don't know. They are the enslavers. That doesn't equal good to me.
me either?
Not right away. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a hard argument to make. Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
I will say,
Yeah.
but I will say, I'm not defending. Okay. I'm not going to defend slavery here, but I will say that in our stories, in our worlds, I do love to make things as nuanced as possible. So not just black and white. So like, and I'm sure you know this, but Carrie, but like any good book, it's not just like pure good, pure bad, right? There's
Right.
always like, there's got to be a motivation.
Absolutely.
So that's why I was saying too, like the humans may be treating these fairies so poorly, but their reasoning is because when the fairies are here and roaming free, it's just like bad luck 24/7 is what it feels like. All these bad things just happening, right? And they said, you guys are the cause of this, which is true. So like, that's why they decided they wanted to control them. The way they went about controlling them is horrible and awful. And that's, you know, humanity. Right. And so, but then on the other side, you have these fairies who their natural inclination is to be mischievous and kind of bad, but also they can do good. They can be good. So,
Well, fairies themselves, we always think of like the British Isles.
mhm.
Here in America, especially where we're talking about, there would have been the Native American spirits, which
Mhm.
would have been similar to fairies in that there were tricksters and what have you.
Mhm.
Maybe these things are related but they're not the same as the fairies. And maybe they actually did cause the Dust Bowl. Maybe they were the reason.
Okay.
Maybe that's why the humans are feeling, I think we need to get this under some kind of control.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. I like that. We would have to figure out like why they did it. Just because? Just for fun? Why did they cause this?
Or maybe they didn't like that the earth was being misused.
Oh, that's a good way. That's a good reason. Yeah.
And they didn't like that the people with whom they already had relationships were being pushed aside, which happens all the time with Native American culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which then would bring us to our nemesis again.
While you guys were talking,
Yeah.
I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about
Okay, good.
I was thinking about Nemesis specifically. And in my head, I was trying to come up with some sort of one of these fairies that is more like a ghostly kind of figure, maybe not ghost, but like a ghostly figure who appears every now and then. And when this person shows up, like bad stuff starts to happen. More of like a horror. I'm not a horror writer. I don't know what I'm doing, but like more of like that scene, right? Like when somebody appears, things start to go wrong. Even if they're not doing anything specifically, but just their presence is like doom and gloom. Maybe this is the nemesis trying to lead that, doing something. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's interesting. I think that maybe that ghostly presence too could maybe try to guide the enslaved so that they go to a particular part of, for instance, a mined area, and maybe release something else, something dark, something that it knows is sleeping there.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I love, you got me with that. I love that. I love it when there's like a bigger, greater evil or force. Oh man. So, okay. So what you're saying is this kind of leader of, we'll say, the rebellion, to be this, rebellion in infancy, is leading the miners to kind of dig in a certain direction to unlock this power upon the humans, essentially, because, and I like your reasoning too of it was the humans who caused the pain to the earth, or I guess to nature, to the ecosystem, and that's what the fairies are kind of fighting against in the end. And so this force that they want to unleash would be kind of retaliatory, and it would be huge. Oh, I like that.
Another quick question. Are the fairies still angels who fell to the earth on their way to hell? Or are we kind of retconning that idea right now?
I like keeping it. What do you think, Kerry?
Like I said, it's a very Anglo-centric way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But are you familiar with Neil Gaiman's American Gods?
That sounds familiar.
I haven't read it, but I've seen it around.
His idea, which is really fascinating, is when people came to America, they brought their gods with them. So, for instance, there is a young woman who she leaves out a bowl of cream and bread for the fairies because she's from Ireland. And each country, when people would come over, they would bring different gods. And there's a theory that the fairies were actually gods that people stopped worshiping, and that made them more diminutive.
Oh.
So we could have it either direction. We could have it that the fairies could be understood as fallen angels that were not quite bad enough to go to hell, or it could be that these are Native American spirits that we only interpret from our, Eurocentric understanding.
Yeah, Greg, what do you think?
I like the Native American ideology being brought in because we are in America. And then because again, we are world building, but right now we're kind of like story building, which is fine. But if you think about the world as a whole, if this is true, if these magical properties and fantastical parts are true here in America, they'd also be true in, Japan, where they have the kitsunes, the foxes. They're basically fairies, mischievous little fairies. And in China, there's daji and all that stuff so every land has their own idea of the fairies that in our world are real. Yes. And so if we're going to be building in America, which we are, let's use the local resources, and build using that. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
That's great. I like it too. Cool. All right, so let's get in on this nemesis a little bit deeper here.
Oh, yeah,
I introduced an idea, and then Kerry introduced the idea of it. Maybe it's leading the other fairies to an old dig site or something that there's a big bad there. Do we want to develop any more of that? I like that idea.
So who's the nemesis? So Kerry, were you saying the nemesis is kind of the leader of the rebellion of the fairies?
Could be, or that could be like a second in command without realizing it. If there's something like a sleeping god of some sort that is under the hill, so to speak, then it could be somebody who is leading to that being the main nemesis, the bigger overarching antagonist, I guess.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that idea.
As far as just because the word nemesis is so cool to me as a title, right? And so if they just said like, we're going to awaken the nemesis, that's all you have to say. I'll read the book. I mean,
well, it's also the name of one of the big zombie killers in Resident Evil.
Yeah. So, which is a very scary game.
It's scary. Yeah.
Never finished it because the nemesis is too dang scary. So yeah, I like the idea of they call it just the nemesis, that we're going to wake up and basically everyone is screwed. Once we get deep enough in this mine, you'll see.
Yeah.
But so the motivation for it, though, I just want to be clear. The motivation for digging deep and getting the nemesis out is because the fairies want just revenge for being enslaved, or they want justice for what's being done to the land, or what's their final motivation here?
It could be either, huh?
Or are they just mischievous?
A little bit of both, I think. Right? It's like you've done a lot of wrongs to the world and to us. Now it's time to pay the price.
Oh, you're going to make us mine, are you? Oh, we'll show you what we're mining for.
Exactly. Like, okay, we'll dig.
I think that actually leads perfectly into like the mischievous aspect too. It's like, no, we're digging. We're just going to dig this way, And then
maybe they trick them like, why do you care which way we dig? Just let us dig.
As long as you're getting silver, right?
Yeah, you're getting silver. We're just going to dig over here. It's all fine.
Not like they know any better, right? It's like, we know this land. Come on. Well, we know where the silver's at. Psych.
Yeah, that could be cool. They're telling them because they caused the Dust Bowl, right? So it's like, we know this land. You know that we know. So
right,
we're going to lead you to the nemesis.
I like that.
Which is fun.
I like that a lot.
All right. Do you want to hear the third word right now?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. The third word is hail.
Ooh, hail.
How do you spell it?
H-A-I-L.
Use it in a sentence, please.
The hail in Spain falls only on the plane. I don't know.
Is that
that's the rain. I was just being humorous.
Gotcha. Okay. Hail.
All right. So basically what I'm picturing is we have this mining community that's been built up around some sort of a big mountain. They're mining for silver. Around them would be completely devastated land that was supposed to be used for farming, but it was used incorrectly and is not yielding. So you have impoverished people, many of whom have moved away. They're setting up in Hoover towns and such. The people who were left, however, thought they would use these, what they might consider less than people, as their workforce to do the mining. And it is indeed making the workforce ill. Does that sound right so far? Is that what you're picturing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would have lots of opportunity to be underground, enclosed, very claustrophobic.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty nasty scene.
Yeah,
After a while.
that can be very tense.
Right.
And especially since you said your friend, and this is in modern times, was under for 12 days or something. That's terrifying to me.
That is a long time. Without seeing the sun, that makes somebody go crazy.
Yeah, my psyche could not take that.
No. That would be very, very uncomfortable for me.
So, okay, so where does hail play into?
Well, if they actually succeed in waking this nemesis, the sleeper under the mountain, it could be heralded with hail.
Oh. But, so, yeah, that's interesting. Do you guys both, do you see hail as a good thing or a bad thing? Just in your own opinions.
It's usually pretty destructive.
Right.
Hail around here, I kind of like it. I've never lived in like Texas, right, where they have like those softball size hail storms, you know, or I don't know where they're at, where you're at, Kerry, but where I'm in Sacramento and here in Utah, hail's always just been kind of fun, to be honest. Like when it's hailing, it's pretty rare, and so
time.
Yeah, it's like, look at it, it's hailing, isn't that cool? You go get a handful and
yeah, when I think hail, I do think destruction. I think rain is good, hail is bad. That's what I draw the line at, because it could hurt. Even like small hail could hurt somebody walking around. And the bigger it gets, the worse it gets. I'm thinking this hail that happens when he's risen is like the big baseball size hail that's coming down.
Yeah.
just laying waste to a lot of the stuff they've got going on in the city.
Okay, so then this is like it's like a god of the elements type of thing, or like he's awoken and just this massive hailstorm comes and obviously would destroy the town, the encampment. It would destroy everything pretty much on the land, but it would leave the mine untouched, right? Because you're indoors.
Yeah, well, it'll be underground. So
all the ferry slaves are fine.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a irony, I guess, right? Where you're making us suffer because we're slaves down here and we're mining, but once we release this nemesis, then you're gonna wish you were down here, type of thing. That's kind of like the principle behind it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You could see that.
Yeah.
What do you picture our sleeper looking like?
That's a good question.
That's what I was trying to think of.
No idea.
That's what I was trying to think of. Like, is this sleeper something that they would consider a god, or maybe like a lesser deity, or kind of like a elemental aspect of the earth? That's what I was trying to think of this last few minutes is, what kind of being would this be? And those were my options I just laid out to you. So what do you guys think?
I like all of those. I don't know. I think I'm more leaning towards an elemental like property of the earth.
Yeah.
Maybe with a little bit of that, spite and rage infused in it, fed by all of the, souls or feelings or wishes or prayers of the fairies. Like there's probably a lot of hatred going into that, like, and resentment. So it probably is born out of that ire for the people. Maybe that's what it could be.
Have either of you seen the animated movie Princess Mononoke?
Yes.
Okay. I know Michael hasn't, because Michael is a certified hater.
No, okay. Listen here. I don't hate anime. I hate most anime. So there's a big difference. Okay.
But Studio Ghibli is
anything Studio Ghibli comes out, I've seen a lot of it. That's fine.
Okay.
I like that.
So in Princess Mononoke, they there's a something similar to kind of like these elemental aspects, what you're talking about, like the forest spirits and all these things. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but from what I remember, they're almost very neutral, like neutral chaotic almost, to where you can't call them a good guy or a bad guy, but they're more just they exist as nature. And so that's what I'm imagining. And also they're terrifying. Like at like at first glance, you see like the forest spirit, I think it was, and I was scared.
One.
Yeah, that with the
Yep.
Yeah, like you first see it, like, ooh, that's a little scary. And then in your head, you're immediately like, is that a bad guy? Is that a good guy? I don't know. But then it turns out like, it's it's just a presence. And that's kind of what I'm thinking this spirit or this elemental aspect in the mind would be, is kind of neutral to everything, but will cause destruction because it has like one goal, right? And that's like the restoration of its territory. And so it will do whatever it needs to do that. Kind of like a like a wild animal, like wolves and coyotes. They will eat and kill things brutally, or I guess kill and eat things. It will kill and eat things brutally. To us, it looks brutal, but to them, it's just survival, right?
That's how it is. Yeah.
It's just the way of life. And that's what I'm imagining this being would be like. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it is sleeping under the earth. So I'm thinking it has to be sort of, I like the elemental idea very much. But it could be something like it set up a den, and it could be our werewolf. Maybe we'll come back to werewolf.
Oh, there we go.
Miss werewolf.
Yes. We did it. We got werewolves.
We did it. Call it here.
Or a bear, a big cave bear, something like that. Something that would be a dweller of the caves, that sort of thing. Or it could be something completely different. I mean, an elemental, when you think about it, it could almost morph into anything that we wanted it to be.
You know what I just thought of, because you talked about werewolves, and I like werewolves. I thought it'd be cool if centuries ago this werewolf spirit, like, of nature was kind of protecting the land, and the humans were trying to get rid of it, centuries ago. This is a while ago, before current day. And the humans ended up winning and like trapping it and burying it in this silver, encased in silver, because, they know it's what it's weak to. So this old ancient spirit is trapped in this silver way under the earth that the ancient humans had put it in. But now, fast forward to now, the fairies know about it, and they're trying to release it because it can't get out on its own because it is surrounded by silver. So this is why they're getting it out, and it can't just get out itself. Kind of gives a reason for that. I like that.
It would also give a strange reason for why the humans would be mining for silver in the first place, because if they think that that is the big weakness for these followers of this ancient being.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's fun. It's the story connects back to itself. So they were encasing this werewolf in silver, and now unknowingly they're digging it right back up.
It's almost like Fenris Wolf from the Viking, the Viking people, the Norse people.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm gonna get, what is it, semantic, I think. So werewolf is a person who can turn into a wolf, right? So I say we just make it a big wolf. I don't want it to be a person.
You don't like a werewolf?
Well, I like werewolves, but I don't want this particular nemesis to be just a person who can also turn into a wolf.
Hey, it's a big wolf, but it still has a silver problem.
Yeah, no, it can still have all that. Okay. That's totally fine.
Okay.
But you said Fenrir, which I am a huge fan of. And so I want to stick with that, where it's something maybe like unto that, maybe not that size, because it's like the size of a world or something, but a little bit smaller, to be encased in silver. But when this nemesis is released, that's when the horror really begins, stalking the mines and just devouring everything in sight. Every human that it comes across. This giant wolf. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it actually, like, now that we've like subconscious, well, I have made this connection to Fenrir, because you're right, it is very similar. Like, that he was bound forever until Ragnarok or whatever that thing was, and it's like till Doomsday happened, right? So it's like
he is the causer of Doomsday.
Yeah, and then once it happens, he comes out and like it's going down. So that is very similar, and I didn't know that.
Well, it's a cool parallel.
Well,
because
I did know that, but
if Fenrir is the one that kind of triggers the Ragnarok, and on a world scale, but this is a much smaller scale, it triggers Ragnarok for these humans. Like it's the end of their time for sure. So it's kind of a smaller scale thing.
And who knows? Maybe there's more than one Fenrir buried beneath different mountains, and as they're freed, there could be a domino effect across the world.
That's cool. Yeah, there's got to be, because ours isn't Fenrir sized. Right. It's just big wolf sized, or giant wolf sized. I don't know how big. It has to be pretty big to destroy whole towns, right? So
Wolves can be pretty terrifying.
Yeah,
I know. They
wolves
lived in our imagination from the earliest times. I mean, you go back to ancient Greece, and they were afraid of wolves, and like you said, the brutality that they could bring about. And it's not that they were trying to be, anything other than being themselves.
No, yeah, they're just wolves.
True.
The
wolves are really cool.
They are cool.
They're awesome, but they are terrifying. I once knew a man in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I lived there for a minute. He was a werewolf. No, plot twist. He was a werewolf. No, but he owned. He was a little crazy. He was very much like a doomsday prepper, and like he was very into it. But he owned two dogs that were half dog, half wolf, which I don't know if maybe it's allowed, maybe it's legal. I don't know, but he owned them. And
I think there's a percentage that you're allowed to have, but
okay.
Not.
That was on my mind. I was like, are you even allowed to do this? But he did it regardless. But I remember I had visited his house once, and he was, the first thing he said when I was at the door, is he said, like, if this dog comes up to you, you have to look it in the eyes. If you don't, he's going to basically dominate you.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, if you do not meet this dog's level of like energy and whatever it is, this dog will own you from the time you step into this house, from the time you leave. And so we had to be sure to, like, when the dog comes up, you kind of got to sit up and you have to look it in the eyes and, pet it. It was very like, it was terrifying. I was scared out of my mind the whole time. And that was just a half wolf, still part dog. So I can only imagine, like, that's why we have all these, folklores and mythologies about wolves, because imagine meeting a pack of those suckers when you're out on your own. Forget about it.
Well, right. That would be bad. But in my mind, I'm thinking, it's not the wolf's fault. That's just nature. But like, did humans create, well, probably we created the fear of wolves because people were writing all these crazy stories about them.
Yeah.
Passed down through centuries. Like, everybody's afraid of wolves now.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Romulus and Remus were nursed by a she-wolf. They were the founders of Rome.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think in their regard, it was like, wolves are powerful. And so it's an entity that we want to kind of emulate and work towards. So instead of fear, it was more like reverence, maybe.
Yeah, I think that if I remember correctly, I think even some of the Roman, I don't know if it was called the legions, whatever their groupings were called. I think they were named for wolves.
Yeah, and some of the centurions or leaders also had like wolf helmets.
Yeah.
Which are so dope, by the way.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
love those.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Here in Pennsylvania, we have a wolf preserve that you can go and visit. And it's really very, very interesting. And just to hear them, even if you don't see them, just to hear them, it really does bring up some sort of a chill. You get a chill just hearing them.
It's like a primal Fear.
Exactly.
It's your
Yeah.
ancestors deep in your soul being like, you need to run.
Yeah,
Watch
that's
the little children; they'll take them.
Yeah.
that's crazy. I have had that feeling one time. I was in Guatemala and there's howler monkeys down there. And I don't know if you've seen this, but howler monkeys, they're not that big, but they scream and they sound like human screaming and they're so loud. It's insanely loud. So even if you just get close to like the edge of the forest where they are, they'll start screaming and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like there's like a million of them. There probably wasn't, but it felt that way.
Mhm.
It's
They're
probably very
all up in the
similar.
trees and around. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and you couldn't see them, and it's just screaming, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced.
And it's stories like that create mythologies.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee those people probably had a story of, little ghost girls haunting the woods or something like that,
Probably,
like,
Souls trapped in the trees.
yeah, like that's how mythology is born, is
Absolutely.
from Mother Nature herself. So
Yeah, it's scary. Scary stuff. Okay. Love it. What were we talking about? We
Talking
were
about wolves.
talking about wolves
We're
and hail.
talking about how cool they are.
Yeah.
I have an idea too. You know, those
Yeah.
fairy folk that are doing the mining, as
Mhm.
they get closer and closer to this sleeping wolf, maybe they become more wolf-like themselves and they can become part of the pack.
Ooh. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. Add that on top.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Approved.
I have
like
no
that.
notes on that one. That's good.
Yeah. So then they would be more like werewolves then. Because they,
Yeah, I guess so.
well, they would transition.
Because they start
back?
out humanish. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So maybe their
that's fine
eyes
by me.
their eyes start to get, the wolf, the shine, the sheen kind of at night when you see the wolves. And yeah, they start to kind of develop those senses as they get deeper and deeper and closer. Yeah, that's cool.
Nice. I knew one way or the other we were going to get werewolves in here. We did.
And the fact that we had already decided, we established that they are kind of allergic to the silver. They are kind of,
Right.
hurt by it. So, but they're grinding through just because of their love, I guess, or their admiration or reverence for the nemesis, as we called it. So,
Yeah. Nice. This is
I
wonderful.
feel like the phantom person too, who would be like flitting in and out, kind of guiding their
Yeah.
flicks and everything. I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that role would be really cool as like something that you would call like the messenger, almost like a sort of like an angel of the nemesis, but somebody who is kind of the mouthpiece of this elemental deity. And so that I think would be the role that this person would fill. He or she would only speak in like these really cryptic sentences, say cool one-liners
Yeah. And then disappear.
and then disappear. Yeah.
Something cool like that.
Melt into the shadows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of the early horror in the story would come from this character.
Yeah. It'd be that person. Very,
The third act would be the nemesis,
Ominous.
but the first two would be this guy.
yeah.
Sounds good.
This is great. I think we got a workable thing here. I think this is wonderful.
This is awesome. And you add on the fact that the whole world itself would be an alternate world. And so, like I was saying earlier, you could pull from any mythology you want and make it real around the world.
Absolutely.
And then you could just build the same thing like this. And you got yourself a vibrant, really fun world.
Sweet. All right. I think that's it for us for this one. Unless either of you have one more thing to add, or are we good where we're at?
I think I'm good with that. What do you think, Carrie? What do you think about this world we built?
I think it'd be really workable.
Nice. Very nice. All right.
Well, you are the writer here, so if you want to write it, you're welcome to.
You're welcome to take this.
It's all yours.
And use whatever you want, or don't do anything with it. That's fine.
Well, if I do, I'll send it all to you.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just like with all of our worlds, we encourage people to, get into it, write short stories, write long stories, whatever they want. So yeah, that's it for us this time, this episode. Again, thank you again, Kerry, for joining us. It's been a blast. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've had a good time.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely. I had a great time.
Perfect. Yeah, you've brought a lot more knowledge, historical knowledge, technical knowledge than we've had. So appreciate it. Love it. Yeah. So for Greg, myself, and Kerry, that's going to do it for us this week. And we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.